Welcome back to the weekly recap. Not very eventful week. We just had Trump threatening to kill some Congress people, a few Congress people quitting. Trump and Mamdani had a chance to meet, and some news on the Epstein files. But before we get into all that, if you enjoy what we do here on the channel, please drop a subscription. It really helps out. And let's get right into the news. Early this week, a group of prominent Democrats, including Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, released a video which asked members of our military to remember their oaths and to inform them that it was their duty not to follow any illegal orders issued by the executive branch. In response to this, Trump went on a bit of a tirade on Truth Social, going as far as reposting rhetoric calling for the hanging of Democrats under sedition violation laws. Obviously, the response to this was a swift and clear condemnation of any violence against Democratic lawmakers for exercising their right to free speech. Just kidding. Caroline Leavitt did a press briefing where she misrepresented the video, stating Democrats asked for military members to ignore all orders from the executive and defended the president's comments.
Encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law.
Obviously, there's a bit of a telephone game going on here, but under no uncertain terms, the Democrats told military members not to comply with any unlawful orders, which is the correct thing to do, by the way. Here's the video for anyone who doubts this.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
At this point, you've probably been inundated with the most egregious departures from decency by Trump and his administration, which is why this should come as no shock to you that a sitting president calling for the deaths of senators was forgotten about in just a single news cycle. As a friendly reminder, the left was browbeaten for the greater part of the last 3 months about the dangers of violent rhetoric, only to have the leader of their party drop his magnum opus and have it swept away along with the wave of all the other dumb shit he utters. So as usual, expect absolutely nothing to come of this. But hey, Congress dropped a resolution condemning socialism, so that's something, right? In slightly less contentious news, Mamdani and Trump had their first meeting, and I don't think anyone could have expected it to have gone the way that it did. The press conference they held after their private meeting left many people, both left and right, scratching their heads as to what could have transpired, but by the looks of it, an unlikely friendship is blossoming between the two. After previously endorsing Mamdani's opponent Cuomo during the mayoral race and saying that Mamdani would, quote, ruin New York, Trump actually began heaping praises on him, and he even said that he'd be fine living in New York under Mamdani. Of course, despite not knowing what they actually spoke about during the meeting, both the left and the right turned it into a dick measuring contest almost immediately. The left saying that Mamdani wooed and schmucked it up with Trump to get him to play nicely, and the right saying that Mamdani had bent the knee. Honestly, I don't think either one of these perspectives is correct. I think they are two men who found that it would be politically expedient to feign some sort of relationship, and so Mamdani, in order to stave off the potential roadblocks the Trump admin could put in place for his vision of New York, and Trump to foster some good sentiment between the large minority pool in New York that had a significant shift towards him in the last election. The meeting was pretty much a nothing burger, apart from some timeless clips that we got out of it, including this gem.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say
okay.
yes.
Okay.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
In other news, MTG is out. In a move that almost no one on earth saw coming, Marjorie Taylor Greene announced her upcoming resignation from Congress effective January of 2026. Among other things, she noted her primary reason as being that she feels like the GOP is doomed to fail in the midterms, and she'd rather not face the abuse that she's been put through by the MAGA loyal crowd for another year just to lose the House. Something I've noticed is that a lot of people on the left are taking this as an opportunity to praise MTG or to try to claim that she's seen the light or has turned a new leaf. I need you to understand me when I say this, and I can't stress this enough. This is not genuine. None of this is genuine. MTG is a political strategist before anything. In case you need a bit of a refresher, here it is. In 2017, MTG pushed the QAnon conspiracy. In 2018, she claimed that the California fires were caused by laser beams from outer space. Also in 2018, she denied the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. She claimed it was a false flag staged for political purposes, keeping in mind that 17 people died in that shooting, 14 of which were children. In 2019 and 2020, MTG pushed vaccine conspiracy theories, and in 2022, MTG said that Muslims shouldn't hold public office. MTG doesn't even believe in anthropogenic climate change. Don't whitewash this lady's history just because you feel sorry for her. She is objectively an awful person. And no, I don't care that she apologized on CNN. That means nothing. And you have to find some humor in the fact that MTG has been dishing out offensive and dehumanizing rhetoric to her colleagues and people on the left for nearly 3 years and has never received a threat on her life. But after criticizing Trump one time and taking the exact same heat she's been dishing out for 3 years by the MAGA crowd, it took 10 days for her to quit her job. 10 days. Now, MTG has mentioned on multiple occasions about her aspirations for an office higher than her role as a representative. So I think this is a strategic redirection, and we can probably expect a run from her for the governor race in Georgia in 2026 to replace current Governor Brian Kemp. Insofar as Republicans are concerned, she'd probably lead the pack. In my opinion, this is great for the left. The more fractured the congressional right is, the easier the midterms will be. And I think if anyone has learned a lesson here, it's MTG's colleagues, who are quickly learning that no one is safe and that anyone can be cannibalized by the MAGA machine that they created and the same one that they continue to bow to. On a more eventful note, Trump has signed the Epstein bill into law, which now gives Congress 30 days to gather and release the bulk of the Epstein files held by the Southern District of New York. Keep in mind that the House Oversight Committee released about 25 to 30,000 emails last week that included, plenty of Epstein-related documentation and communications that they received from the Epstein estate directly. If you had any doubts about what Jeffrey Epstein was actually doing, take it from him and his victims. In no uncertain terms, at a minimum, we know that Jeffrey Epstein was running child sex trafficking rings for the wealthiest and most powerful elites in the world, like Lex Wessner, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, and a whole bunch more we probably don't know about yet. That is the minimum. We also know that he had cameras in every room of his homes in Florida and New York, where he also orchestrated these sessions on U.S. soil. We know that he has had constant communications with former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon about influencing American and Israeli elections. So I'll let you connect the dots here. He takes the most powerful people on earth, arranges children for them to abuse, and then films them committing these heinous crimes. And then what? Maybe he just sits on these tapes. Or maybe he uses them. Maybe he leverages some of these compromising tapes of the most powerful people on earth to affect outcomes, both political and financial, to ensure that he gets his sick fix while also making millions for him and his friends. But that's just my guess. And if you don't believe me, go read it for yourself, because every email communication that has been released from the House Oversight Committee and the Epstein estate has been conveniently archived into a Gmail-like inbox called Jmail. And everything I just said is in there in plain text, from his communications with Steve Bannon to his messages about Lex Wessner, everything. So go have a look for yourself. As always, thank you for joining me on this weekly catch-up. If you enjoy the videos, please drop a subscription. It really helps out the channel, and I'll see you next week.